Hello, this is Richard Arfsten. This was a really fun piece to make. I guess I'm a little boy trapped in an old man's body. Anyways, on my Dreamtime adventures with Flash Gordon, we traveled to different planets, as I've already said in several of these other movies, But anyhow, this is a takeoff on it was a favorite movie that was made years ago when I was a kid, and I can't think of the name of it right now. But anyway, this plane crashes in the Mongolian mountains or some damn thing. I don't know. Anyways, they come to this land, into some valley where it's prehistoric. And so anyways, to me this is a prehistoric predator on a planet where everything is made out of cubes. This design would certainly be a landmark if it was put someplace where kids could see it. You're going down the road. Oh, Daddy, look at the monster there. It would be something to look forward to seeing. This would even be great in a big sandbox, or like a pumpkin farm or something like that. It'd be a hell of a great photo op to take pictures of your kids playing in the sandbox with the prehistoric fantasy monster, and it'd really be cool for a memory in your photo book. I don't know, this was something I could have built with my building blocks when I was a kid. The only problem was, when I was a kid, I didn't have the ability to glue the blocks together, So glue is a marvelous thing. I invented the procedure that I use. I don't know anybody else that can do these things the way I do. So, but anyways, so it gets buried in dry, loose sand like hourglass sand, and I pour molten metal into it. And this requires a foundry. That's the reason why sculpture is so expensive. And especially this type of thing, which is so experimental, I only get 50% of what I do, which means if I have cast 300 pieces in my life, I made 600 pieces in order to get the 300 pieces, And we have to remember that so many of them are duds, and a lot of times the very best designs disappear. You only get a few. So let's assume that you had an interest in some of my work and wanted to figure out how costs, if they're realistic or not. One of the reasons for the movie is so that you can show these views to your fabricator, get some idea of what it would cost to build. Another thing you can do is show these to a sculptor and say, what would you charge me to build and cast something like this? The standard way a sculptor usually works is he makes a model or a design out of clay, and then from that clay he shows it to people who might be interested in it. What he's trying to do is sign up 25 people to get copies of this, because the foundry process is so expensive to make the molds and do the casting. He doesn't start to make a profit until he gets probably to number 18. And from 18 to 25 is where he makes his money. So I try to bypass that by using my little process here. But there is so much risk involved in not getting a piece out of it. No other artist, no other sculptor I know would take the risk in working the way I do. It is so expensive to cast that I couldn't afford it. So I spent some time and did an apprenticeship in a bronze casting foundry so that I could learn the process myself, so I could bypass the standard foundry. Every other artist has to hire somebody, has to hire the foundry, and of course that gets really, really expensive because they got a whole series of people that have to work on this. In my situation, I just happen to have an industrial background so that I am able to figure out what I'm doing here and come up with new solutions that take less time. I think this would be marvelous in front of some company that had a big expanse of grass in front of it. The reason why a company would buy a piece of sculpture is to draw interest to whatever it is that they're selling or their facility. Think of it as a sign. This is a very sophisticated sign, and companies spend a gazillion dollars. Look at Las Vegas, all signage, you know. But anyway, that's what it is. It's advertising. Remember that naming my pieces is a big problem for me. Just because I call it Predator doesn't mean that you have to call it Predator. You can call it anything you want. I just have to be able to separate one piece from another with a keyword, and that's what the title is all about for me, basically. It gives me some kind of a mental cue which piece it is. Once the fabrication is finished, they return the maquette to you. Now you can use it as a piece of desktop sculpture. If you're interested in any more of my work, there's a lot of it on sachiart.com. And I also do paintings and prints and drawings, all kinds of stuff. So a lot of it's up there. I appreciate you taking the time to look at my work, and I'm wishing you a fine day.